It just got super fucking windy. Oh, there's a love letter in the water. Oh, that's sad. Welcome back to a brand new episode of Bloor and Mandalore. I am your host, Jeremy Bloor, and I just wanted to bring you guys out here to this beautiful spot that I found the other day with my girlfriend. We were kind of just like looking for a place to meet up, and it's right near where I film a bunch of other stuff. It's actually like around this kind of cliff. And we just found this spot. I just thought it was so beautiful, and I really love the look of that tugboat. So, you know, I hope you guys enjoy. I know it is so windy. If you look at my pants throughout this video, not here, not here. I caught you. Yeah, no, like, if you look at my pants, you're gonna see it's like super fucking windy. I'm hoping that it's not too bad for the thing, but I've tested this for like 5 minutes, multiple different times in multiple different areas, and I haven't been able to see any kind of like massive interference. So, you know, look, it's the problem with doing an outside show, but we persevere. Now, look, let's get started into the big question that I put on the title, which I presumably think you saw, and then you clicked on this video. Look, I asked the big question on Reddit. I said, hey, what are big discussion points in Star Wars? Because I was just genuinely curious. You know, I was kind of like, I was filming a bunch of other videos, and I was like, oh, you know, I wonder what the vast majority of people think. And I found this Reddit thread, right, where a bunch of people were saying about how they do, you know, at universities and colleges and so on, they do big discussions. And one of the big questions that popped up for them was, did the prequels get saved by the Clone Wars? Now, that's the animated TV show. Now, I think this is a really, really cool question to think about. Personally, I'll come straight off the bat. I'll say no. No, I don't think that the Clone Wars actually saved the prequels at all. It definitely added more depth, it added more fun and lore, and I mean, I saw that in a bunch of different questions and answers so on before. But I think that was across the board with a lot of my responses. I didn't expect to ruffle as many feathers as I apparently did. I mean, like, I got some serious DMs about that one. Like, serious DMs and serious replies. Now, I don't know if they were actually mad or if they're just, like, fucking pulling my leg. But some people got really, really mad about this. Remember, the prequels are my fucking favorites, all right? I love the prequels. I love the Clone Wars. But it wasn't a necessity. But these days, a lot of people think it is a necessity for other shows or other movies to have a surrounding base of, like, you know, different TV shows, maybe small little shorts and so on to patch in the lore, maybe even video games to understand. Like, a lot of the time these days we're talking about just give us more to fill in all of the shit that happened with the sequels. And we're thinking right now, well, you know, did the prequels need it at the time? Now, they both really received a lot of the same criticism. The only thing being is that George Lucas owned it at the time, so he can say, I made this, you can fucking like what I make, or you don't. But now he's sold it. So it's a lot easier for people to kind of hate and going, oh, well, you know, the big mouse, they hate Star Wars. No, they don't hate Star Wars. They love Star Wars because it makes money, and they love money over everything else. And I think with their big failure with the sequels, which, I mean, inherently it was, I don't think they were bad movies at all. I mean, they were bad moments, but I don't think they were bad movies. You know, with a lot of that kind of stuff, now they pump in more money and get more shows to kind of like work around it. And, oh, well, you know, and in Ahsoka, they talked about a bunch of these things which kind of fixes the lore for this character. And, like, you know, like, it's a bit, like, you know, the whole premise of The Mandalorian bringing in cloning and all that kind of shit is to fix Palpatine's return. Now, like, did they do that necessarily with the Clone Wars and the prequels? No, they didn't. But what they did do was bring in a whole bunch of different themes and kind of actually not necessarily childlike themes, but very mature themes as well, and just like a deeper lore into the understanding of what goes on within the universe. With the Clone Wars, the prequels were allowed to breathe. They were allowed to kind of grow and flourish, and you could find little things in it which obviously were designed that way, to be able to go, now I get why he's acting like that. And no way, it's because of this rule that happened at this time that only this can happen. And I think it's a really cool way to do it. I will say there's one big thing about Star Wars lore. If you see me kind of fucking moving around, it's because I'm on an edge. And my bloody feet again, so I'm gonna power pose, you guys. So the thing is with Star Wars lore, it's a very big difference to some of the other larger franchises. Now, if you look at something like, I'm watching Rings of Power at the moment, so I always bring up Lord of the Rings. Well, I'll bring up Warhammer 40k. Okay, so if any of you guys know Warhammer 40k or even Lord of the Rings, basically it's the same premise of you create every bit of lore around, and then you create the characters, and then you put them into that situation. Star Wars, on the other hand, is like, well, we've created this, and now we need to make that all make sense. So they'll build lore around it. That's why you see a lot of lore changing all the time. Purple lightsabers, all that kind of jazz. I could harp on about that for so long. Basically, the general premise is that it's created after an event has already happened. Now, what a show like the Clone Wars does, like the animated TV show, what that does is it actually allows you to dive deeper and to have a richer history and just a beautiful backstory to some of the characters which I believe could not get the same amount of screen time as they could in the movies. Think about something like Kit Fisto. We see him and he's a super cool looking, powerful Jedi that everybody loved. Everybody growing up, you thought Kit Fisto was so fucking cool. But you saw nothing of him other than Palpatine twisted at him and killed him in like 2 seconds. Okay, yeah, sure, it was a Sith Screech or something like that. That's the perfect, by the way, that whole thing I was saying with the Sith Screech, that shit is the perfect representation of the lore. It's fill it in after because it doesn't make sense. But Kit Fisto, he didn't get any screen time, but everybody loved the look of him. Everybody, wanted to see more of this guy, and they basically turned him into one of the coolest characters in the Clone Wars. Look at Plo Koon. He had barely any viewership time on, I can't even think of the right word, but he had barely any time actually in the movies. He was just a face for a little bit, and then you can explore this incredible character with so many flaws, but just a general bravery and strength and compassion for those around you. And it showed the true meaning of what a Jedi could be. It's things like that, it's things like the Clone Wars that allow you to be able to have that. Now, again, the prequels, they can stand on their own 2 feet. I'm not worried about that. I'm not thinking that the prequels itself is something that's a weak-minded kind of format that's just absolutely needs as much help as what it can get, which is what the sequels kind of ended up being. The prequels are strong. But with that kind of time, at that point with the Jedi, it makes so much more sense to be able to give us a show that we can fill in the gaps. Now, before I harp on more about how much, they didn't necessarily need it and how much it just helps, there's one big thing that I want to talk about when it comes to just in general with the Clone Wars and how it has affected the prequels, is its love for the characters. Now, I know I harped on about it before being like, you can see more of them. But that's honestly what creates love. I remember Beyond the Dune Sea, they were doing an episode about the 2D Clone Wars, and they were talking about Captain Fordo. Captain Fordo is the red clone. He's one of my favorites. I wonder fucking why. It's for this very reason. They talked about it. They said, the reason why he's pretty much everyone's favorite, why Rex is everyone's favorite, why Anakin's everyone's favorite, is because he gets more time. He's more fleshed out. Like there's the ability to be able to be seen on multiple different levels and kind of like, not necessarily platforms, but see through the curtain and kind of like what's going on behind in their regular life. And, why did he make that decision? Well, it's because, his wife he's got a kid and he's kind of wants to build a life, and you know, it's the depth of character that you were able to get. Anakin or, you know, Fordo being just a fucking badass, you just see him on the screen more. Everybody just loves him more. Captain Rex, come on, I don't even have to give anyone reasons as to why you would like him. Like, it doesn't necessarily always work that way, especially with a character like Vader. You know, I think less screen time for Vader is actually better because you can see his character as, like, the strength that he truly is, and you know, the fearlessness and just, I mean, the general fear that he strikes into all of his enemies and all of the people around him is just like, you can't have him on too long because then it humanizes him. The problem lately with all of the Darth Vader stuff is that he's kind of being a lot more humanized now, and we're not really seeing him truly for what he is, which is just like some absolute fucking man-child who's lost everything and anything that he cared about, and then he's just turned into a fucking weapon by someone who doesn't even love him, and then he's just gonna fucking turn around and be like, well, my son's here, so you know, like, with characters like that, it doesn't actually make sense at all to kind of give more. But for so many other characters, it's instilled love, it's instilled passion. I mean, be a toy advert as much as it wants to be. I absolutely love playing my games. The Battlefront 2, I talked about this in my gaming episode. I love switching on Battlefront 2 and playing as a clone because of all of the clone stuff that I saw in the Clone Wars. Because I wanted to be that character. I wanted to touch that insane level of legendary status that I personally believed that all of those clones were on. The fact that I could understand more about their factions and who was in there and why, like, who led all of the, you know, who led the 501st, who led the Coruscant Guard, like, all of that kind of stuff. And just, it allowed me to have my choice as a fan to love the characters that I wanted to love. And that is why it's important. It can create a little bit of, like, muddied waters when it comes to certain things, right? Like, it can overplay a character too much. Like, you can see Maul. I mean, everyone has that Star Wars joke. Again, it's a fictional universe. It doesn't fucking matter. But everyone has that whole joke about how Maul was, you know, no one can die. Maul was chopped in half and he fell down this massive hole, and then, you know, he's still back alive. He just kind of clung on with a spider down on his legs, and he's like, oh, I see you. No, that's in the Rebels, but I could do a Maul impression later if you want. I mean, put in the comment section if you want a Maul impression. I love Maul. He's like one of my favorite characters. But I don't know why they would bring him in. And kind of like muddy the waters with that, because, I mean, he died. But on the same fucking level, it made people love him more. He wasn't necessarily just that one cool looking red dude that ran up and tried to kill a Jedi like the moment he fucking saw one. Or even if he didn't know he was a Jedi. Like, he just went to go kill someone straight away. Like, he's not that guy. He has depth. He has character. I think he's one of the best written Star Wars villains. You know, it's just, that's the kind of stuff that it can do. Now, there are a lot of themes in the prequels that do rely heavily now on what the Clone Wars introduced, and a lot of that is the relationships between clones and also their masters or generals or whatever you want to call them. I mean, they can't call Anakin a master, but you know, like, it's the relationships with that which kind of, you know, it makes the movies seem a bit weird because they just don't really seem too close. I mean, you've got Commander Cody and Obi-Wan Kenobi in that whole fucking beautiful, I believe it's Utapau, when you know, Obi-Wan's on the boga and he's running up the cliff and so on, and then it turns and it's like, oh my god, I remember seeing how much they were friends and so on. You could see that, but not anyone else. It's like all you see is Yoda and Obi-Wan running up and just slicing through clones no matter what. Like, it didn't fucking matter. Like, they went to the Jedi Temple and they were just like, yeah, no. And, you know, at that point, it kind of muddies the water because it's like, why are you so close with just your individual faction as a Jedi? Maybe it's because you've got an actual attachment there. You know what I mean? Or is it because you actually love the clones, you actually love kind of like what they bring and all that kind of jazz? Look, again, I think it's just interesting to think about. If we think about the sequels and so on, what necessarily would you bring in to add to the sequels? I mean, feel free to chuck it down below. Personally, I would love to have something like the Clone Wars for the sequels, for the original trilogy. Give us more. I mean, we've seen so much of the animation these days, which is just like fucking incredible. Absolutely incredible. Like Bad Batch. I did a whole bloody stint on it. That was the very first TV show that the very first episodes that I did as a Star Wars YouTuber. I mean, they hold a very special part of my heart, but you know, like you get to see these dudes in, incredible 4K with the most amazing dialogue. Not dialogue, most amazing like cinematics, and it's just beautiful. And that was years of work kind of built up to get to that point, which I think would be such a waste. It would be such a waste to just throw that away. Like, to all of the stuff that we've built on, to be able to grow and to understand what we have, and, you know, we don't have that anymore. We don't know where we're going with all that kind of stuff. It's like all of the live action feels like it's just patching random holes that doesn't need to be fixed. Like, how many times do you have to repair a tire before you go, oh, maybe I might just buy a new tube? You know what I mean? You still have the general husk of the tire, but you just need new tube. So, you know, okay, maybe that was a bit too deep. maybe. But, I mean, I genuinely really think that something like the Clone Wars not only makes everything so much better, I think that it's needed for every single trilogy. Every single trilogy. Without a doubt in my mind, that is all that we need as Star Wars fans to be able to grow and love. Because you got to remember, like, we're getting older now. We're losing a lot of the childish ideas of what we think is good and bad, and we're kind of learning a lot more of the extra side of it, like the politics and all that kind of like garbage. You'll see growing up, all of these sequel lovers, they're going to be louder, they're going to be prouder, they're going to be happier with all of the stuff that's come out, and because they've grown up with it. Why don't we give them the same thing that we grew up with, like the Clone Wars did for the prequels? Because personally, I wouldn't trade a single thing for it. It not only brought me into like the biggest fucking love for this massive franchise, it just strengthened my love for these movies, which are just, they're solid gold. They're solid gold. So in the end, let's wrap that little bit up. My closing statement for all of it. Did the Clone Wars make the prequels better / save them? No. However, they added so much more depth, so much more lore, so much understanding, and making something so incredible that it would be so stupid to think that it's not a necessity. I love everything to do with the prequels, but nothing would have been anywhere near as special if we didn't have our boys in there, animated, fucking up some seppies, getting some clankers on their fucking knees, and then sitting in Bacta for the rest of the day. I mean, I love it. I hope you guys love it. I'll get into the fan questions. I've got my little book. I've got my little book over here. If I can even, like, this wind is so... You guys can see the current. Look at that. Look how fast that current is. Current, C-U-N-T... Oh, no. Okay, so for the fan segment, I already told you guys, I asked the question. Some people got a little annoyed. I'm not going to call them out. For the people that sent me DMs and got annoyed at me, I love you. I actually love you. And I completely understand why you would think that I was mad at the prequels, but, you know, I'm not. So Okay. So we got from Ashton Sharrett. Now, Ashton Sharrett, oh my god, I'm so bad with this. Every time with the fan segment, I'm like, tell me the fucking question. But, you know, like Ashton Sharrett, guys, if you know nothing about music like I do, watch Ashton Sharrett. Watch his breakdowns of all of the Star Wars music. He can pick what's going to happen for the rest of the fucking season based on the music. It's insane. The guy's a fucking genius. I really recommend you watch every single one of his videos because it blows my mind every time he picks something up. And because I have zero musical talent except for my beautiful singing voice. Oh, yeah. No, he's... Okay, so Ashton Sharrett said, prequels didn't need saving, in brackets, I said what I said, end bracket, but it did add more depth, fun, and lore. Absolutely, dude. I mean, like... In no way did they need saving. You're not really being controversial there. Trust me, you are not being controversial. They didn't need saving, but I'm so glad you agree with me. You agree with kind of like what I was saying. I mean, throughout the duration of this whole fucking episode. Man, my boy, my idol, Press Pause Photography. I just said Press Pause. Press Pause Photography. That's Connor T from Beyond the Dune Sea. Connor T from Beyond the Dune Sea. Damn, that's kind of cool. I don't know if he thought of that. That's kind of cool, dude. So he says, no! The Clone Wars is amazing! Sorry, it's when people put things in caps, I'll yell it. Clone Wars is amazing! But the prequels stand on their own 2 feet and set up the OT well. Actually, you know, on that, I didn't even bring that up. Like, I mean, I didn't think that was necessarily a problem that needed to be fixed, but, you know, I think it's really good to kind of, like, do the generalizing of the argument. Like, he's so right. I mean, there is nothing in the prequels that needed to be added to make sure that it fit in with the OT well. Now, the OT, I mean, the original trilogy, if anyone's like, what the fuck you want about? You know, I mean, we got to see Vader's fall. We got to see why he fell and kind of like add depth into all of that stuff. But, you know, we get to see a little more of his fall and why he did that throughout the Clone Wars. So it added more. It's definitely on Ashton's point. Like, it added more. It added more. It didn't necessarily need it, but it added more. And, you know, I love that. I love that. I really do hope they can do more. The Julie Fotef Weber, I hope I say that right. Thank you so much for coming back in, by the way. You put a question up a while ago, like ages and ages ago. I'm glad to see you back. Thank you so much for interacting. Didn't need saving, but it did make it more fun to watch. Like everyone's on the same fucking page. I fucking love you guys. I love you guys. We're all on the same page. Please don't go at me thinking that I hated the prequels. Because, I mean, I love them. I love all Star Wars. Mainly The Mandalorian. No. Darth Christensen 17. Another fucking goat. Now, guys, Darth Christensen 17 does heaps of different episodes and videos with Star Wars Nerd 00. They are really cool to listen to. A really fun watch. I actually really enjoy their shit. And he's honestly just a gun. He makes some really cool content on Instagram. Go check him out. He said, the prequels were already beautiful movies. Clone Wars didn't fucking save them. Okay. I hope that wasn't mad. I hope that wasn't mad. Because I genuinely didn't mean it. I genuinely didn't mean that they needed saving. You know, I mean, but I'm glad you're passionate, dude. I'm so glad you're passionate. That's the one thing that I will take over anything. I do not care. I talked about this in the Future of Star Wars episode. I do not care what you like. I don't care what you love and what you want to do and how you want to fucking enjoy it. Enjoy that shit, bitch, and be fucking proud. So, if you're going to be fucking proud of anything, be proud like Darth Christensen 17. Because that dude, he's proud. Drink every time I say proud. Star Wars Nerd 00. He said, now this is a long one. He DM'd me this one. And, by the way, guys, if you want to just DM me, and you don't want to, you know, fucking post on the Instagram and potentially have your thing put up, I'm never going to put anyone's thing up as a question unless I ask your permission. Just Remember that. But if you want to just DM me, maybe have a longer response, a little bit more nuanced, because I know it's so annoying. Every time I do a Beyond the Dune Sea question, I always have to kind of like word it down and make it really concise, and it's not exactly what I wanted to say. So save yourself some time without doing like 50 billion fucking responses, and just send me a DM, or even just comment on the video, and I'll absolutely put it up on the next week. Star Wars Nerd 00. He says, now the goat Star Wars Nerd 00. He did a really cool video with a fellow Aussie. All right, go check it out. Captain Jesse, is it Clone? I think it's Clone Jesse. Anyways, Jesse, he's a fucking awesome guy. He makes really cool content. He says, absolutely. I grew up loving the prequels, but as I got older, I started to follow only Revenge of the Sith was good. Now that was in, I mean, I get that. Then I stopped liking Star Wars in 2017. But then the Clone Wars brought me back, and the rest is history. Now let me just put this one down. Dude! Sorry. Dude, I respect that big time. I mean, it's so easy to fall into like the general masses of like, well, everything is shit. You know, it's easy to fall into that, and I don't blame you, because I mean, when heaps of people are saying the same fucking thing, it's hard not to look at it and go, maybe they are right. And, you know, I'm just glad it got you back. I'm glad it got you back into Star Wars, because you make incredible content, dude. And you know, it's just, the Clone Wars did that for people. It allowed people to come back. It allowed people to grow with Star Wars again, to enjoy what they're doing. And you don't even have to be a kid to watch that stuff. You can watch that now as an adult and just get so much more in Revenge of the Sith later on, because it's set, you know, you figure it all out. But, you know, you get so much more. You get so much more. And it's just, it's pointless to not do it. You know what I mean? So, just lastly, a couple more things. On the questions, guys, it doesn't have to just be on my Instagram. Every week, obviously, I post a thing on my Instagram just going like, hey, fan segment, what do you guys think? Plug it in down below. You can DM me if you want, like I said before. You can comment on this fucking video with any question. It doesn't have to be a question or an answer to whatever I'm putting on my Instagram. Send me anything. I'll always put it down. I'll always add your stuff in, because I love you all so much. I really appreciate you all, and all of the shit you guys have been doing for me. Lastly, I just wanted to thank every single one of you. I mean, I've been seeing literally the nicest fucking comments ever. I mean, it makes my day. I've been seeing so many new guys here, so many different people messaging me. I mean, because of Tony's stream being like, well, you know, or Tony's video being like, oh, you know, well, hey, like, I saw you on this and I love your content and thanks so much. And I have to say, every single one of you, I will read their messages, I mean, like 50 fucking billion times. I love you all so much. I genuinely can't say it enough. I really appreciate you. I hope you all stick around, because I've got some exciting stuff. If you want to see some of the stuff that I have got planned for in the future, go check out my video, like, where do we go from here? It's a Blore and Mandalore, like, future episode. So, check it all out. I love you all. Thank you so much. I hope you enjoyed this beautiful view. If you can tell, it's been storming like a motherfucker over here. So I'm just going to go break before all of this like rain comes and hits me. It's been torrential, and I ride a motorbike, so I kind of don't really want to get stuck in that one. Love you all. Thank you so much for joining, and I will catch you in the next one. Let me roundhouse transition it away. Yeah. Oh, I got a really bad back. I'll keep that in there. Fuck it. Ciao, people.